Welcome, everyone. Each year, the City Club is very pleased to present these high school debate championships with our regular high school student program and youth forum series. They're part of our significant continuing commitment to the youth of our community. We're proud of these remarkable young people and delighted to give this program the full forum treatment with radio and television broadcasts so the entire greater Cleveland area can share in the celebration of their intellect and talent. We're especially pleased to have the continuing support of the law firm of Baker Hostetler for this program. And I'm going to keep my comments short. I'd like John Parker to come up to the podium for a few words of welcome. John?
Thank you, Ralph. As I was thinking about introducing the debate today, I was reminded of an Aesop's fable I used to hear as a child about a certain group of mice that lived in constant fear of their enemy, the cat. And the problem becomes so bad that the mice held a meeting to decide what it was they could do about the problem. At the meeting, a lot of different proposals were bandied about and announced and discussed, but they were all rejected until a young mouse in the front of the room raised his hand and had this suggestion. He said, if we put a bell around the cat's neck, whenever the cat walked, we'd hear the bell and be able to run to safety. Well, the mice thought that, for the most part, was an excellent idea, put it to a vote, and it passed almost unanimously. Well, just then, an older mouse who'd been sitting quietly in the back of the room raised his hand and said, I have one question for the proponents of this plan. Which one of you is going to bell the cat? But I would submit to you today that we have two young people with us in Vinay and Omar who certainly are capable of belling many, many cats. And the experience that debate provides to them and to the other young people in the room, we at Baker and Hostetler truly value and are very, very interested in continuing to support among our young people. And in fact, it is because of that that we sponsor this debate in memory of my late partner, Pat Jordan. Pat was a very, very accomplished high school debater. In fact, I also debated against him in high school. My very, very first debate as a high school debater was against Pat. My very first loss as a high school debater was also against Pat. But Pat and I, while we were rivals as debaters in high school, when we got to be partners at Baker and Hostetler in the late 1980s, became quite good friends. And Pat was a tremendous trial lawyer and a very, very good partner. And as a result, it is my particular honor today to introduce to you his daughter, Ann, who is going to explain the rules and the resolution to us today. Ann is a member of the speech and debate team at Laurel School, where she recently qualified for the state tournament in oral interp. For you non-debaters and non-forensic people in the room, that's a little bit tougher than getting into the NCAA tournament. So it's quite an accomplishment. In addition, Ann is on the Board of Community Service at Laurel, has been her class secretary, is in the a cappella choir, and a number of other accomplishments. So it is indeed my real privilege and pleasure to introduce to you Ann Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. As my father died when I was very young, I still have much to learn about him. However, with the help of friends and family, I have learned of a few things which he valued very highly. First and foremost, he cared about his family more than anything, and it is this love which has supported us all through good times and bad. He was also very passionate about his work. Whether it was serving as senior class president at St. Ignatius, competing at speech and debate, working as a prosecutor in Manhattan, or working as a partner at Baker and Hostetler, his compassion never wavered. In this way and many others, he has inspired and continues to inspire us all. And this is why I'd like to thank Baker and Hostetler and the City Club of Cleveland for continuing this tradition and keeping my father's memory alive. Today we will see the finals in Lincoln Douglas debate for the National Forensic League North Coast District. Participants in Lincoln Douglas debate contest issues of value. For example, is vigilantism justified when the government does not enforce the law? Or is violent revolution a just response to political oppression? One competitor affirms the resolution and the other negates. The affirmative has the first and last speech in the debate, and both debaters have the opportunity to cross-examine the other after the initial constructive speech. I'd like to introduce the three judges for today's debate. They are Mr. Ryan Peoples, debate coach at Berea High School, Mr. Devin Snook, debate coach at Vermilion High School, and Sheldon Braverman. The timekeeper will be Olivia Lokandwala from Laurel School. The resolution for today's debate is resolved. The United States ought to submit to the jurisdiction of an international court designed to prosecute crimes against humanity. And now, the two debaters who will contest the resolution. First, on the affirmative side, is Vinay Prasad, a senior at University School. And negating the resolution is Omar Diab, a junior at Hawkins School. I'd like to wish the best of luck to both debaters. Now, if you are both ready, let's begin.
Before I begin, I would like to thank the City Club for giving me the opportunity to speak here today and for fostering free speech. I would also like to thank my coaches and my family for supporting me. In the 21st century, military might is insufficient to provide security for Americans. Rather, grand strategy must be centered on the maintenance of healthy global partnerships. Joining an international court is a crucial element of such a cooperative foreign policy. I therefore affirm resolved. The United States ought to submit to an international court designed to prosecute crimes against humanity. The following definitions are necessary to clarify the round. To submit to the jurisdiction of an international court is not to eliminate and replace the national court. Rather, I advocate that the international court intervene when our domestic court is unwilling to prosecute. A crime against humanity, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is a brutal crime that is not an isolated incident, but that involves large and systematic actions. Among the specific crimes that fall within this category are mass murder, extermination, and enslavement. Since the resolution asks what the government ought to do, the value for the round is governmental obligations. My value criterion is national security. Since citizens are obligated to pay taxes and obey the law, the state in return has a reciprocal obligation to ensure their well-being. Thus, the state's primary obligation is to ensure the security of its people. My thesis is that submitting to an international court is essential to a cooperative, multilateral foreign policy, the optimal approach to ensuring security in the 21st century. Contention 1. Refusing to submit will alienate allies. Such alienation will occur for three reasons. First, unilateralism fuels anti-Americanism. Historically, when the United States has entered armed conflicts despite international opposition, the consequence has been fiery anti-American sentiment. Operation Iraqi Freedom, for example, not only undermined U.S.-UN relations, but angered the Islamic world and increased terrorist recruitment. Acting alone tends to create the perception of arrogance. The consequences of our isolationist tendencies, moreover, are evident in our relationship with the International Criminal Court. In 1998, the ICC statute was passed by a vote of 120 to 7. Only 2 democracies, including the U.S., voted against the court, alongside countries such as Iraq and China. Uncooperative unilateral foreign policy tends to wear down alliances. Second, non-participation undermines the U.S.'s moral leadership in the world. Opposition to the court is a break from the U.S.'s historical tradition of supporting humanitarian institutions. For 50 years, we have supported institutions such as the United Nations, the Genocide Convention, the Geneva Conventions, and the Nuremberg Trials. The Lawyers' Committee for Human Rights explains the consequences of non-participation. The most corrosive effect is the damage done to the moral dimension of U.S. international leadership. The U.S. is able to do more when it accompanies its power and wealth with moral force. If the United States relies on might alone, it too often will have to stand alone. Refusing to submit will result in a diminished moral high ground. Third, non-participation sends a message of American superiority. Historically, the U.S. has employed international courts to prosecute foreigners, such as those in Tokyo, Nuremberg, Rwanda, and Yugoslavia. The Lawyers' Committee describes the impact of this double standard. Other countries will conclude that the United States is happy to set and enforce rules for others as long as the rules do not apply for it. In sum, non-participation sends a dangerous message to the international community, that we are unwilling to cooperate, that we lack moral leadership, and that we are exceptional. These three factors accumulate to produce a crippling effect on our global partnerships.